Hello and welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to be learning how to change a tire. So I don't know if it shows up on the camera or not, but this back tire here is down to about 5 pounds per square inch and needs to be changed. So I'm going to show you how we do that today. The very first thing that you're going to want to make sure is that your car must be on a flat, level, and stable ground. If it is not, you're going to want to leave this job to a professional because it is far beyond the capability of this video to explain all the variables that you could encounter. But in general, if it's on a flat, stable, level surface, you can change the tire relatively safely following a few simple precautions. I'll show you those today. If your car is like most, then your flat tire repair kit is going to be in the trunk of the car. So we'll go ahead and we'll peel back this carpet that usually lays in the back, and underneath that is a little cheap cardboard or wooden plate that's there, and then underneath is your emergency toolkit. So you're going to have some tools here, you're going to have your jack, and then you're going to have your donut, which is down here at the bottom of the car. So very simple type of operation. These are usually locked in with a little screw, and we'll just unscrew that and pull the tire up out of the car. I just wanted to show you a little trick because sometimes the little locks that tie the tire down are on there too tight and you just can't spin them off with your hand. So there's a easy trick is to take the jack. It often will have some type of spacing on it, and you can put that on there and use it to loosen that little lock nut off so that you can get to your tire. So I just wanted to show you that little trick just in case that ever happens to you. Once you have your tire change kit ready to go, the first thing you want to do is chalk the wheels. So we want to find whatever we have conveniently available to put on one of the other wheels that you will not be jacking up. In this case, I'm just doing the front wheel. I had some spare 2x4s around, so that's what I use to chalk it up. If you're on the side of a road, you might need to look around and find whatever you can, and hopefully there's like a stick or log or some type of debris that you could just kind of throw up under the tires. And this just keeps the car from rolling accidentally once you have it up on jacks. Now we're at a little bit more dangerous part of the whole operation because we're going to be jacking up the car. And that's always something that's a little risky. Every year, mechanics and commoners alike get injured or even killed when cars fall off of jacks on top of either their arms, legs, chest, body parts, or just the car just falls completely on them. And so we want to be very careful when we're getting up under a car. So I'm in this cramped position here because I'm going to try to give you a couple of guidelines for when you jack up a car, because you don't want to just put the jack anywhere on the car, because you might just push the jack right through the floor of the car, and no one's going to appreciate that. So it's awfully cramped under here. I don't know exactly how well this is going to show up on camera, but I just wanted to show you what the underside of a car looks like. So there's some parts of the car that are very solid, and then there's some parts that are very thin and flimsy. And when you jack up a car, especially new modern cars, there's not as many places to jack them up without hurting the car. So if you look at mine, I have that orange jack, and it's under what looks like kind of an axle for the back wheels. It's not exactly an axle, but it's a big heavy piece of metal, and that's a good place to jack up a car. If you find something big and heavy duty, that's usually the spot that you want. And I have a jack and jack stand under it right now because I needed to get it high so I could get the camera up under there. But you can see that's a pretty hefty, beefy piece of metal, and that's a good place to jack it up. And then the spot where I have the jack stand would also be a good spot to jack up the car as well. It's harder to get up under there when you're on the side of the road. So I want to show you the very most common place that you're going to put a regular jack when you're stuck on the side of the road. So let me get my finger up here. So this thing here is called a pinch weld, and if you look, there's two pieces of sheet metal that have been folded over and then welded together with spot welds every so often along the way, and that's a very convenient spot for the jack to get up into. So the head of the jack and fit right up into that pinch weld. And that's what they're designed to do, is grab it right there. And that's a pretty good spot to jack up a car from, is to get that pinch weld. If you can't get the pinch weld, you're going to want to look for something very solid. Okay, you're not going to want to hit the muffler pipe. You're not going to want to hit one of these flimsy pans that's the part of the floorboard or a protective shield. You want to make sure you're not jacking up into the fuel tank or something like that, or the brake lines, things like that. You want to look for very specific parts. Like I said, this pinch weld here is a very good one, or anything big and solid that looks like it holds up the tires. Those will all be good spots to pick. All right, now we are ready to jack up the car and start taking the tire off. I do want to remind you that the footprint of these jacks are tiny little squares, and it's very easy for them to fall off balance. So make sure your car is on a stable, level ground, and make sure you've got the wheel chocks there to make sure that this car is not going to move. Now I'm ready to start jacking it up, and I'm going to start raising it up so that I've taken some of the weight of the car off of the tire, but it still won't turn. And that's where I want to start. I'm going to start pulling the hubcap off. I just put this little wedge right in between the rim and the hubcap. I'm going to start prying it gently off. I'll just work my way all the way around so that comes off nice and easy. Now, most of the time, these are going to be on there so tight that you can't get them off with your hand. In my case, this is just a small car, so it's easy for me to break these loose. But if you were on the side of the road and you couldn't break those things loose, put the tire iron on it and step on it. And that'll break the lug nuts loose if you can't get them off with your own strength. So we're just going to loosen all these up here. And just get them just a little bit loose. And now I'm going to start jacking this thing up the rest of the way. And I'm going to go till the tire is off the ground, but that's the highest I want to get it. I want to keep it as low to the ground as possible so there's the least chance of accidents that could occur. I'll go ahead and loosen all these things up here. All the lug nuts should just spin right off. And then the tire can pop off. You've got to be very careful to make sure you don't get any part of your body under the car. Since we don't have a jack stand under this car, if the jack was to fail or fall over, the car is going to fall. So we want to make sure none of our body parts ever get under the car. Now we can go ahead and pull the tire off. We'll simply move the spare tire or the donut over to the car. We'll line up all the lug nuts. I'm going to put all of these on by hand. It's very important to spin these on by hand first before you start using the lug wrench. I push the rim completely on and then put these on by hand as far as they'll go. Okay. Now that I've got them tight up against the rim, I'm going to go ahead and start snugging them down in a star pattern. And the star pattern simply goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I just keep doing that, drawing that star pattern until I tighten them all up. It's very important to tighten them all evenly so that you don't warp or twist your drum or rotors. So again, just continue in that star pattern, and I just tighten them up a little more each time. Once they're all tight, I can go ahead in a circle and just make sure everything's torqued up to exactly what it's supposed to be. Okay, and if that's too hard for you to tighten those down, you can always stand on them to tighten them. This is just going to be a temporary solution until you get your tire repaired, so it's not going to be a big deal if you over tighten them just a little. Okay, thank you. Once those lug nuts are all on, you can go ahead and lower the car down and congratulate yourself on a job well done.